Hi everyone, it's Emma here, and today I am talking through 8 unusual or surprising symptoms of cystitis. So these might not be such obvious or well-known symptoms of cystitis, but I think it's still important to cover these so you know what to look out for, what they can mean, and in terms of your understanding of the symptoms and also why they're cropping up, what they mean, this is going to also help to inform your treatment as well. So I'm just going to jump straight in, and the first one I want to talk about is back pain. So with symptoms of cystitis, we quite often associate more pelvic pain, urinary tract pain, particularly if you're going to the toilet, if you're peeing, the burning sensation, but also back pain is one to look out for. I should also say, with all your very typical symptoms of cystitis, we would recommend jumping straight in with your uva ursi and echinacea. So all those typical pelvic pain, burning sensations, urgency, we would say to go in with the uva ursi and echinacea. And that's not to say this wouldn't be helpful if there was also a symptom of back pain, but with back pain we would say to be particularly cautious. So the uva ursi wouldn't do any harm, but we would say to take some additional steps as well if there was back pain. This can suggest the infection, which resides in the urinary tract, could be travelling upwards, nearer towards the kidneys. So the kidneys at the top of the urinary tract, but by the time we get to a kidney infection, that can potentially be much more serious, and we would say then in that case it should be under the guidance of your doctor. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of when the uva ursi would be appropriate, and when something like back pain would then step you over into doctor's territory and time to go to the doctor for that one. Number 2, we have bloating. So bloating is a common symptom generally, but we're here to talk about it in terms of cystitis and what could be going on. So bloating can be associated with any sort of inflammation. So if there is inflammation in and around the bladder, an infection, potentially bloating could be having a part to play as your immune cells and things work their way into the area. But there could be other links there with bloating as well, such as with your digestive health and symptoms such as dysbiosis. So digestive bloating and dysbiosis can in some cases be linked to cystitis. Either traditional cystitis where an infection has taken hold, if the balance of bacteria isn't optimal, then potentially that could be a contributing factor to symptoms of cystitis or recurrent cystitis. But also actually in cases of interstitial cystitis, underlying constipation is quite often part of the picture, and constipation can also give rise to dysbiosis and bloating in some cases, either just by adding that mass to your gut if your gut's slow moving, or by upsetting the balance of bacteria, which in itself can give rise to extra gas and bloating. So again, we're just trying to consider what the symptoms could mean, and that could help inform your treatment in terms of digestive support, for example, might be an important part of your treatment process. Number 3, we have confusion. So just a couple of points here to consider. There are actually a few things with confusion as a symptom. First of all, it could be linked to an infection, a urinary tract infection, which again has spread, has become a bit more systemic. So that would be something to go to your doctor with if you suspected that was the cause. That would be perhaps if it was quite an acute, sudden bout that wasn't so common for you. But also if it's a more routine symptom, perhaps it could be linked to thrush, so a yeast infection, an underlying yeast infection, which isn't the same as the bacteria that typically cause UTIs, but I've actually done a blog on the link between yeast infections such as Candida and bacterial UTIs. So that's just a connection to be aware of there. But as I say, if it's quite an unusual symptom for you, it's quite acute, especially if it's paired with any other symptoms, any fever or anything like that, or any of the other symptoms we mentioned here, such as back pain, then it would be straight to your doctor if you're in any doubt as to what could be causing it. Next one, we have dizziness. So first one to consider when it comes to dizziness is dehydration. This is an important factor in symptoms of cystitis. Potentially dehydration, especially if this is an ongoing state, could be contributing or make infections more likely, and also that can contribute to dizziness or lightheadedness. But again, it would be one to watch, especially if it's quite an acute unusual symptom for you. It could suggest again that infection has spread beyond the lower urinary tract. It could have travelled upwards or more systemically. So again, that would be one to watch. In the meantime, of course, good to keep up with your water intake, good quality liquids, even your good quality cranberry juice if you are prone to infections. But dizziness, again, one just to watch out for in case there could be something else underlying, some infection there that's spreading. Number 5, we have fatigue. So interestingly, if we have any infection, be it a urinary tract infection, a cold or flu, your immune system is going to be working harder in order to get that under control. Even something as simple as a yeast infection on your skin, your immune system is going to be working harder than usual in order to try and combat that. So fatigue isn't necessarily anything to worry about, but as always, there could be other links, there could be something else going on. With interstitial cystitis especially, there can be links with other conditions such as fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue. So again, this would be one to consider if it's a new symptom or if it's more ongoing. In this case, if it's more ongoing, we might want to try and determine if there's something else linked to that. But again, if on the other hand, if it's quite acute but quite extreme, this could suggest quite an acute infection that may need further treatment from your doctor. As always, with the UTI, fine to go in if you suspect you have a minor UTI, but if it's anything persistent or extreme, then it would be straight to your doctor for further investigations, and they can outline any appropriate treatments. Number 6, we have headaches. Again, one of the first things we would consider, especially in light of UTIs, would be possible dehydration. That can quite often be linked to headaches. Once again though, always erring on the side of caution, headaches can be linked to infection, especially if they're spreading and if they're accompanied by any other symptoms such as your fever, your back pain, confusion. Any of those in combination would definitely be straight to your doctor, and also if the symptoms are unexplained or you're not quite sure why they're cropping up. But again, one step to include straight away would be to drink enough water or up your liquids. Number 7, we have itchiness. So the typical bacteria that cause UTI and the typical symptoms of UTIs aren't often associated with itchiness. More discomfort, burning, those kind of sensations. Again, it could be linked to a yeast infection, and I've tagged the potential link there. Yeast infections are more likely to give rise to that itchiness, so that could help pinpoint that. And then you could do some appropriate groundwork there if you suspected that was part of the picture. Something like probiotics for women can be a nice step if you suffer from those kind of yeast, candida type infections, thrush, and actually they can be quite helpful in cases of recurrent UTIs as well. So quite a nice one for those kind of intimate problems, especially in women there, for that product. And finally, we have nausea. Again, not so much a typical symptom of cystitis. Could potentially have some links with digestion, which we've talked about, the balance of bacteria. Nausea can be a common digestive symptom, so perhaps some work there, but again, could potentially be linked to an infection. So that would be one, again, to consider how quickly it's come about, If it's longer term, more recurrent, could be linked to your digestion. Some digestive work could be of benefit, but if it's come on quite suddenly in extreme symptoms or unexplained, then it would be straight to your doctor just in case that